I need to share something that happened last night, something that shook me more than I expected. It's not the first time anyone's house has been broken into, but this time it felt different. It wasn't just about money. It wasn't about electronics, cars, or anything replaceable. It was about pieces of my life, fragments of memory, things that carry weight beyond their material value. Before I go further, let me ask you something. Have you ever lost something that you thought could never be replaced? A possession that wasn't just an object, but a keeper of moments, of emotions, of stories. If you have, type the word memory in the comments. Let us see how many of us know what it feels like to be robbed of more than just things. I woke up this morning feeling strange, the kind of strange that creeps up slowly, a shadow at the edge of your mind. I walked through my home, the silence pressing in, and then I saw at the first signs, a drawer slightly ajar, a frame tilted on the wall, a chair moved where it hadn't been the night before. At first I thought maybe I had misplaced things in my own sleep, a trick of fatigue or my scattered mind, but as I looked closer I knew the truth. I had been robbed, and yet it wasn't the way you usually imagine a robbery. There was no chaotic destruction, no shattered glass, no forced entry that screamed violence. Whoever had been here moved with precision, like someone who knew exactly what they were looking for, and that's when the unease hit me. This was personal. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about valuables anyone could sell or pawn. It was about memories, the tangible moments of my life, carefully curated over decades, now gone in silence. I started walking through the rooms one by one, cataloging the loss in my head. A small worn notebook that held sketches from my earliest experiments gone. Letters from old friends, some of them people who no longer walk this earth gone. That little wooden box on my desk, the one filled with tiny mementos from my first real projects. And travels gone. And I realized as I looked at the empty spaces that what had been stolen couldn't be replaced. Not really. I asked myself 1,000 questions in that quiet house. Who did this? Was it random or had someone watched me for a long time, waiting for the right moment? Could it have been someone I trusted? And most of all, why take the things that mattered most to me? Things tied not to wealth or status, but to memory and emotion. It made me think about all the moments connected to those items. The notebook, I remembered sketching in it late at night, ideas that seemed impossible at the time, dreams that no one understood but me. I remembered the feeling of hope, the nervous excitement that came with every new concept. Those sketches weren't just paper, they were pieces of my ambition, fragments of my mind when it was raw, and unshaped by success. And now they were gone. The letters were even more painful. I held them for years, reading them in moments of doubt or exhaustion. Each word carried the voice of someone who had seen me at my worst and my best, someone who had believed in me when I struggled to believe in myself. To have them stolen, to have those voices silenced in a physical sense, felt like a small part of my past had been erased. And I found myself wondering, do these memories truly vanish when the object is gone? Or are they safe inside me, preserved in the quiet corners of my mind, waiting for me to recall them? I walked slowly to the living room, noticing subtle changes, a frame missing from the wall, a shelf with an empty space where a rare book had once sat, and I kept asking myself, why these things? Why not something more obvious, like electronics, jewelry, or cash? And the answer that came to me painfully was that whoever did this knew me, at least in part. They understood the value I placed on these objects, not the monetary value but the emotional weight, and that was unnerving. I thought about the wooden box again. The trinkets inside were small, almost insignificant, but each one was a story. A tiny metal charm from a trip abroad, a pressed flower from a moment I wanted to remember forever, a coin that marked an experience with a friend long gone. Losing that box felt like losing a bridge to moments that had shaped who I am, and in that moment I couldn't help but feel violated. Not in the physical sense, but in the sense that my personal history had been tampered with, that someone else had intruded into the private landscape of my life and removed pieces of it. And as I stood there taking in the emptiness, a new set of questions emerged. Could I ever recover from this? Would I ever feel the same connection to my past again? Was I being irrational, placing so much importance on objects that in the grand scheme of things could be replaced? Or was I correct in feeling that their absence left a void, one that couldn't be filled by new things, no matter how valuable? I tried to reason with myself. Perhaps it's not the objects themselves, I told myself. Perhaps it's the memories they carry, and maybe that's the lesson here. Memories like life are fragile and the things we attach them to can be lost. But that doesn't mean the memories themselves are gone. Maybe the sketches, the letters, the tiny mementos, maybe they live on inside me in the decisions I make, in the lessons I carry, in the way I remember those who wrote and drew and laughed with me along the way. But the questions wouldn't stop. How could I prevent this from happening again? Could security ever truly protect against loss of the intangible? And then a more personal question, one that I couldn't shake. Why did it hurt so much more than I expected? Was it the fear of losing control, of realizing that even someone like me with access and resources could be stripped of things that mattered? Or was it deeper than that, a reminder that even in wealth, in success, in achievement, some parts of life remain profoundly vulnerable? I moved through the house again, slowly touching surfaces, noticing details I had never appreciated before. The missing items left spaces that felt empty in a way that money can't repair. And yet, amidst the sadness and confusion, I realized something else. That the memories connected to these things, the emotions they carried, the lessons embedded in them were still mine. No one could steal that, and maybe that was the point. I couldn't help but think about the people I know who have faced similar losses but in different forms. Friends who lost their life's work in accidents, loved ones who lost letters, photos, objects of meaning. And yet they survived, and more than survived, they carried those memories forward, creating new ones, building new connections, treasuring new experiences. And I asked myself, could I do the same? Could I transform this loss into reflection, into appreciation, into an even deeper understanding of what truly matters? I spent hours retracing my steps, mentally cataloging what was gone and what remained, and in that process I realized that grief isn't just about loss, it's about awareness. It's about recognizing what you value, what is precious, and what you would protect if you could, and in that realization, I found a strange comfort. I still had my memories, my experiences, my lessons, and maybe, just maybe, that was worth more than any object ever could be. By the time morning fully arrived, I was exhausted, but my mind was alive with reflection. I asked myself again and again, what does this mean for the way I live? For the way I cherish people and moments, for the way I measure value and success? And each time the answer came back the same. Value isn't in possessions. Value is in experience, in memory, in connection. And if I can carry that forward, nothing taken last night can truly diminish me. And yet I have to admit, I still want to find them. I still want to see who took those pieces of my life. Not for revenge, not for anger, but because understanding brings closure, and closure allows the mind to rest. And maybe in that pursuit, I'll uncover more than just the thief. I'll uncover something deeper about myself, about what I treasure, and about how resilient the human spirit can be when faced with unexpected loss. The silence of the house felt louder than any noise. Every creak in the walls, every distant hum of the air conditioning seemed like a whisper of someone still here, someone who didn't belong. I kept walking through the rooms, the empty spaces where my things had been pulling at my thoughts like magnets, and with every step, one question grew louder: who did this? It wasn't just about theft anymore, it was about intent. I have lived long enough to know that most thefts are simple, opportunistic. Someone sees value, takes it, disappears. But this was different. This felt curated, chosen, almost intimate. Whoever came into my home knew exactly what they were after. They didn't touch the obvious things, the electronics, the artwork, the cash. They took my memories, my private objects, my anchors to the past. That wasn't chance, that was knowledge. And that realization unsettled me more than the loss itself. Was this random? Or was this someone who had been watching me, someone who knew me? I tried to picture them. Were they standing in these same rooms days before, studying my routines? Did they linger over the notebooks, the letters, the wooden box, deciding what to take? Did they understand what those items meant to me? Or did they just sense their importance? I turned to the security systems next. My homes are not easy to access. Layers of protection, cameras, sensors, people, it's all there. And yet someone got through cleanly. No alarms, no alerts, nothing. The system showed gaps, moments of static, glitches that shouldn't have been possible. It was as if the house had gone blind for just a few minutes. How? That question twisted in my chest. How did they get past everything? Was it technology, some advanced way of bypassing security, or was it simpler an insider, someone with access? That thought chilled me more than anything else. Because if it was someone I trusted, someone close enough to walk these halls without suspicion, then this wasn't just theft. It was betrayal. I started making a mental list of people, staff, friends, colleagues, visitors, anyone who had been here recently. Faces flashed through my mind, some warm, some distant. Could one of them have done this? And if so, why? Did I hurt them without knowing? Did they feel I owed them something? Did they want to send a message? I walked into my office again, the place where the absence felt heaviest. The desk looked naked without the box on it. The shelves seemed incomplete. I stood there staring at the empty space and felt a wave of unease. What if this wasn't about theft at all? What if it was about me? About breaking into my life, into my mind, about taking not just objects, but the sense of safety and continuity that keeps us grounded. Another question surfaced, darker than the rest. Did they want to harm me? Not physically, but emotionally, to destabilize me, to make me doubt those around me, because that's what was happening. I could feel suspicion spreading like ink through water. Every interaction replayed in my head, every word spoken by people I trusted now weighed down by a new sinister possibility. I replayed the events of the previous days. Had anyone asked odd questions about the house, about my routines? Had anyone lingered near the office too long? I couldn't pinpoint anything concrete, but fragments kept surfacing, a glance here, a hesitation there. Was I imagining it, or had there been signs all along? I went back to the cameras again, frame by frame, searching for something, anything, a shadow at the edge of the lens, a flicker that shouldn't be there, nothing. It was like a ghost had walked through my life, taken what mattered, and vanished without leaving a trace. And that was almost worse than catching someone on tape, because a ghost can't be confronted, a ghost can't explain. I leaned against the wall, closing my eyes, trying to breathe. This wasn't the first time my trust had been tested. In business, betrayal is an old acquaintance. But at home, in the space where you're supposed to be unguarded, it cuts deeper. Why take these things? Why now? And then another question, what if it wasn't about them at all? What if this was a mirror showing me something about myself, my attachment to the past, my tendency to hold on to artifacts as proof of who I've been? Was this loss forcing me to let go, to move forward without the crutches of objects? Or was that just a comforting story I was telling myself to soften the sting? I thought about people I know who have been through similar things. Not robberies, but betrayals, sudden losses, unexpected changes. They all described the same feeling at first. Disorientation, like the world had shifted a few inches overnight. That's exactly how I felt now. My home, my sanctuary, my history, all of it had shifted. Become uncertain. And yet, under the suspicion, the anger, the sadness, there was also curiosity. Who are you? I thought the person who did this. What did you see when you walked into my home? Did you feel powerful, guilty? Did you touch the letters, the sketches, the trinkets, and feel anything at all? Or were they just trophies to you? I don't know if I'll ever get those things back. I don't know if I'll ever know who took them. But as I stood in that empty office, the morning light creeping in, I realized I was no longer just grieving objects. I was standing at a crossroads between suspicion and understanding, between anger and reflection. And maybe, just maybe, the answer to who isn't as important as the answer to why it matters so much to me. Because in that answer, there's a truth about memory, about trust, about vulnerability, truths I'm still piecing together. I want you to understand something I'm only learning right now in the hardest way possible. Don't make the same mistakes I did. Don't attach your identity to things. I know how tempting it is. We collect objects, we save mementos, we build little museums of our lives in drawers and boxes. We tell ourselves these things hold our memories, that without them we'll forget, that they're proof we lived, we mattered, we experienced something real. But they're not, they're just things, and things can disappear in an instant. I'm not saying don't value anything, I'm saying don't let objects become the foundation of who you are. Because when they're gone, and they will be gone, whether through theft or fire or time, you'll feel like you've lost yourself. And that's the real tragedy. Not the loss itself, but the hole it leaves because you built your sense of self around something so fragile. Protect what matters, but know the difference between protection and paranoia. I had security systems, I had cameras, I had protocols, and someone still got through. You can't build walls high enough to keep out every threat. At some point, you have to accept that vulnerability is part of living. The question is, do you let that fear control you, or do you live anyway? Be careful who you let into your space, not just physically, but emotionally. I let people in without really seeing them. I trusted by default instead of earning it over time. I confused access with intimacy. And maybe that's why this hurts so much, because I don't know who to trust anymore. And that's my own fault for not being more selective, more aware, more intentional about who gets close. But here's the balance. Don't become so guarded that you stop connecting altogether. That's not protection, that's prison. I can feel myself sliding toward that now, suspecting everyone, trusting no one, building walls that keep people out but also keep me trapped. Don't do that. Stay open but stay aware. Give trust slowly. Watch how people behave when they think no one's watching. Notice the small things, the inconsistencies, the moments that don't quite add up. And for God's sake, back everything up. I'm not just talking about files and photos. I'm talking about memories. Write them down. Record the stories. Don't assume you'll always have the object to trigger the memory, because you won't. And when it's gone, if you haven't captured the essence of what it meant, it's gone forever. Talk to the people you care about while they're still here. Don't wait for letters to arrive. Don't save conversations for someday. Have them now, because you can lose letters, but you can't lose a conversation that's already happened. You can't lose the way someone made you feel in a moment you were fully present for. Stop performing your life and start living it. I've been so focused on documenting, achieving, proving that I forgot to just be. And maybe that is why someone could walk in and take pieces of my past without me even noticing, because I wasn't present enough to sense it. I was too busy living in the future, planning the next thing, building the next dream. Learn from my pain. Don't wait for a robbery to realize what actually matters. Don't wait for loss to teach you about value. Look around right now. What would hurt to lose? And if the answer is an object, ask yourself why. What does it represent? And can you find that meaning somewhere safer in yourself, in your relationships, in the way you live rather than what you own? Because I promise you, things will disappoint you, people might too. But if you've built your life on something deeper than both, you'll survive whatever comes. Share this with someone who might need a reminder that even in loss, there are lessons waiting to be uncovered. What's one thing the story revealed to you about your own life? And what's one step you'll take this week to protect what truly matters? Not with locks or alarms, but with presence, honesty, and love.